This is your hand. Well, the bones of it. Beneath every movement are 27 bones that are arranged in precise functional structure. 8 of them form the wrist and 19 of them form the hand. So what we are going to do in this video is to go through all the bones that make up the wrist, and then we are going to look at the bones of the hand, basically the metacarpals and the phalanges. What's up everyone, my name is Taim, I'm a medical doctor and I make animated medical lectures to make different topics in medicine visually easier to understand. If you would like a PDF version or a quiz of this presentation, you can find it on my website, along with organized video lectures to help with your studies. Alright, let's get started. The bones of the wrist, also known as carpal bones. The carpal bones are really interesting. They are small, irregularly shaped bones that give your wrist its ability to bend the way it does. And they are arranged in 2 rows, a proximal row and a distal row. Let's do the proximal row first. The proximal row is basically the base of your wrist, as you see here. And just for orientation, here's the radius on the lateral side and here's the ulna medially. Now, let's take a closer look at the 4 bones in this row. First up, we have the scaphoid bone. This is the most lateral of the proximal row bones, and it sits just underneath the radius. Let's look at it in a bit more detail. It has a proximal surface that articulates directly with the radius. It has a distal surface that connects with the trapezium. And it has a medial surface, which is a shallow area that connects with the lunate. Another thing we can see on this bone is that on the palmar side, it has a raised tubercle called the tubercle of the scaphoid. It contributes to forming the lateral wall of the carpal tunnel. Alright, next to the scaphoid, we've got the lunate bone. The lunate bone connects proximally with the radius along the scaphoid. Distally, it articulates with the capitate, the largest of the carpal bones. There's also a separate articular area distally that connects with the scaphoid, and medially, there's a flat surface towards the triquetrum. Alright, the triquetrum is our next bone here on the proximal row. If you zoom into it, you can see it has a surface here for the pisiform, which sits nearly in front of it. There's also a distal surface that connects with the hamate, and another flat surface here that articulates with the lunate. And finally, we've got the pisiform. This one is so interesting. It's a small P-shaped sesamoid bone that sits on top of the triquetrum on the anterior side, and it serves as an anchor as well. The pisiform is where the flexor carpi ulnaris tendon inserts. It also serves as the origin point for the abductor digiti minimi. In addition to this, there are 2 ligaments that attach here as well. It's the pisohamate ligament and the pisometacarpal ligament. Ligaments and joints will be covered in the next video. But that was the 4 bones of the proximal row: scaphoid, lunate, triquetrum, and pisiform. Now, let's cover the distal row. These are the 4 small bones that form the bridge between the wrist and the metacarpals, and the first one is here, called the trapezium. The trapezium sits just beneath the base of the thumb. On its distal surface, this area here, it articulates with the first metacarpal. There's also this smaller facet that connects with the second metacarpal, and on its medio-proximal side, it touches both the scaphoid and the trapezoid. And just like the scaphoid, it has a small bony bump on the palmar side called the tubercle of the trapezium, which also contributes to the lateral wall of the carpal tunnel. Another thing is, here you see the flexor carpi radialis muscle with this tendon. You can actually see it runs through a shallow groove on the trapezium called the groove for the tendon of the flexor carpi radialis. Next, we have the trapezoid. It's a small bone just medial to the trapezium. Here is the proximal surface. This part connects with the scaphoid. Then we've got a distal surface which articulates with the second metacarpal. On the medial side, it touches the capitate. And on the lateral side, it connects back to the trapezium. Next, we have the capitate. This is the largest carpal bone, sitting in the middle of the wrist, right behind your middle finger metacarpal. Let's zoom in. This proximal surface here connects with both the scaphoid and the lunate. Then at the base, it connects distally with the third metacarpal. On the medial side, it touches the hamate, and laterally, it connects with the trapezoid. You can also divide the capitate into 2 parts: the head, which is the rounded proximal portion, and the base, which faces the hand. And finally, we have the hamate. Hamate is at the ulnar side of the distal row. This part of the bone, its medio-proximal surface, connects with the triquetrum. Then here, distally, it connects with the 4th and 5th metacarpals, and laterally, it articulates with the capitate. But the most distinctive part of the hamate is this, the hook of the hamate. It projects anteriorly and it serves as an important attachment site for things like the piezohamate ligament, and is also the origin point for both the flexor digiti minimi and the opponent's digiti minimi muscles. So that was the distal row: trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and hamate. And together with the proximal row, that completes all 8 carpal bones. Now, to help you remember them, here's a weird mnemonic. Scary lions try pizza, then they chase hamsters. Yeah, it's weird, but that's the point. The weirder it is, the more likely you are to remember it. So now, anytime you think of the wrist bones, you will probably picture lions, pizza, and hamsters. You're welcome. That was the carpal bones. Let's do the bones of the hand. The bones of the hand consist of 2 main groups, the metacarpals and the phalanges. To make this easier to visualize, let's put the bones back into the hand. As you see here, the metacarpals form the middle part of the hand, basically the palm, and the phalanges make up the fingers. Let's now start with the metacarpals. There are 5 metacarpal bones, and they're numbered from the lateral to medial, so thumb is number 1, ending with the little finger as number 5. All 5 share the same general structure. They each have a base, a head, and a shaft. The base is the proximal end that articulates with the carpal bones, and the head is a rounded distal part that connects with the proximal phalanx of each finger. That is also the part that forms the visible knuckles when you make a fist. Now, while they all follow the same structures, each metacarpals has its own unique features. The first metacarpal, which belongs to the thumb, is shorter and thicker than the others. Its base has a saddle-shaped articular surface for the trapezium, which allows the thumb to oppose and rotate, which is a function that separates human hand dexterity from most other species. Now, let's cover the fingers, the phalanges. Each digit is made up of phalanges, and they are categorized into 3 parts: proximal, middle, and distal. The exception is the thumb, which only has 2, a proximal and distal phalanx. The proximal phalanges are the first ones, and all 5 digits have 1. The middle phalanges are 1, 2, 3, and 4. Only the 2nd through 5th fingers have these. The thumb does not have a middle phalanx. The distal phalanges are present on all fingers, including the thumb. Now, this is anatomy, so let's cover the basic structures of them. Structurally, the proximal phalanges have a base at the proximal end, a shaft in the middle, and a head distally, just like the metacarpals. The middle phalanges also have base, shaft, and distal part. The distal phalanges have a base and a shaft. However, instead of a rounded head, they end in a flattened, widened area called the tuberosity of the distal phalanx. This is the part that anchors the fingertip pulp and serves as an insertion point for the flexor digitorum profundus tendon. So that was everything for the bones of the hand. Just before we end this video, do you know what those are? These are called sesamoid bones of the hand. These little bones are embedded within tendons, often at the points of high friction or pressure. In the hand, the most consistent sesamoid bones are located at the base of the thumb, and what they do is they act as something called biomechanical levers, improving the mechanical advantage of the muscles that flex the thumb. Although we always expect them to be at the thumb, sesamoid bones can also show up in other fingers, but that varies depending on the population. Let me show you something interesting. This X-ray here is from a study published in the Journals of Orthopedics, Trauma and Rehabilitation in 2017. The study looked at 300 hand radiographs of Chinese patients and analyzed where the sesamoid bones were found in the hand. They found that sesamoid bones were present at the thumb at 100% of the cases. That is expected, but notice how they are just sometimes present on the other joints in the hand, indicating that the presence of these is very different between the population. What's even more interesting is that the distribution of the sesamoid bones was exactly the same in both hands in every case. The study found that these patterns aren't universal. Different ethnic populations have different prevalence rates. For example, compared to Europeans and Middle Eastern populations, Chinese individuals were more likely to have sesamoid bones at the 2nd and 3rd MCP joints. So why does this matter clinically? Well, these bones can sometimes cause problems like inflammation, known as sesamoiditis, fractures, or even mimic foreign bodies or fractures on X-ray. So recognizing their typical locations can help avoid misdiagnosis. So next time you see a hand X-ray, keep an eye out for these little bones. They might be more important than they look. And with that, we've covered all the bones of the hand. In the next video, we will be covering all the joints and ligaments of the hand. Click the next video and I will see you there. If you want handmade PDF version of this lecture, take a quiz to test your knowledge, or access an organized list of all my videos, you can find everything on my website. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.